On April 23rd, 1917, the Battle of Arras began in earnest. The Royal Sussex Regiment went over the top. Edwin was soon wounded, receiving help, ironically from a German soldier who was himself badly hurt. He had to wait 30 hours for treatment. 30 hours, as literally thousands of more serious cases, friend and foe alike, had priority. Whilst in hospital, Edwin witnessed the extremely depressing sight of the daily quota of 2,300 bodies being removed every day to the local cemetery. He writes, the bodies, were all covered with Union Jacks, each body being covered with a blanket pinned with safety pins. The graves are of a communal type, consisting of a deep trench, the bodies being laid side by side, the last one on each day being only partly covered so that another could be laid alongside. I took a list of all the Royal Sussex I could locate there, some of them my old colleagues, which made me very sad for a long time. Many German wounded were brought in, and as far as I could see, they got equal treatment with our own. Tomorrow's Armistice Day, 11th of November, and it made me think about sort of where I'm from, and this is my great-grandfather's diary from his service in World War I. He was a sniper with the 36th Snipers Brigade, fought with the Royal Sussex 7th Battalion. So he wasn't an Anzac, but he was part of the British Expeditionary Forces, and he fought in France in 1917. As I've just read, he was in the Battle of Arras. He was injured there. He recuperated and he went back, and on the 20th of November 1917 he was wounded on the opening day of the Battle of Cambrai. Every now and then I sort of start to think about where I am, where I'm from, who I am, and what made me, who I am, and my great-grandfather's diary answers a lot of those questions. I'm a very keen shooter. I'm a target shooter, recently a target pistol shooter, but I've always had a gun. I've always shot rabbits or possums or targets, and it's something that I've enjoyed since I was very young. Tomorrow being Armistice Day, it's an opportunity, I think, to just to acknowledge all those who have served, given their lives or given their liberty or given their freedom or given their youth or their experience or their innocence for everybody else, whether it be in World War I, World War II, any of the major conflicts, Vietnam, Korea, Malaya. Our own guys here have recently been in East Timor peacekeeping, and especially all those fine men and women who are fighting for us all in the Middle East right now, in Afghanistan and Iraq. I want to just acknowledge your service and thank you for it. I think a lot of people don't really understand what's going on in Iraq, and I don't either, but I've read a few books and I've got more of an idea now than I had a couple of years ago, and I know it's not a simple situation, and I know we're there for a lot of reasons, and the coalition forces in Iraq, I take my hat off to you. You're not fighting necessarily for your country, but you're fighting for everybody on this planet against a universal foe, and I thank you for it. My great-grandfather's diary, I'm not allowed to publish. I'd really like to. It's a fantastic book, and it covers basically 1917. He was a sniper, so he had a lot of freedom on the battlefield, but he did get caught with his diary a few times and was told to get rid of it. Luckily he didn't, and when I read it, it's like meeting him. I never met him. He died in 1966 before I was born. He's the sort of guy that I'd really like to have sat down and had a beer with. To shoot men down from a distance is totally different to the close combat at arm's length. The first would not really register, but the second ploughs a lasting impression in the depth of the mind. Just try to think of being hungry, cold, wet, dirty, infested with vermin and sores, with someone waiting just round the corner, as it were, to plunge a bayonet in your throat or to blow your brains out. It is too much for the imagination to cope with, especially so as this went on for weeks, months, and in some cases years. He wrote a lot of really interesting stuff, things that, you know, you just, in my youth, my generation, I can't even understand what these guys went through living in those conditions. I'd like to read another little bit here. These last entries in the record will indicate my beliefs grounded to me by experience of war. If at any time in the future you should find yourself in uniform of sailor, soldier or airman, remember you become a number, losing your identity, and your life is no longer your own. You do what you are told, go where and whenever you are sent. While no amount of care or safety first is of much use, if your time has come, always and on every occasion take every care and precaution. Man's life is governed by something unknown. Some claim it is God, others say it is fate or destiny. Whatever it is, I'm convinced that what is to be will be. My experiences have taught me to be a fatalist, for I have seen some struck down in the first few moments of battle, while others are spared for months or years. Eventually, they have nearly always been gathered in, either as wounded, missing or killed. Being afraid is no help. Be brave, fearless if you can, but always try to think of some epic story of your own country, for instance Sir Richard Grenville, Oliver Cromwell, and so many others who braved great odds. This helps to keep one's own morale up. The rest is in other hands. Try to keep fit and health. Remember, if it comes to hand fighting, man to man, your opponent will also be a trained man, and the training being equal, it is the fittest man with his British tenacity who will come through. Your rival is trained to think you are a bigger, viler creature than you think he is. Another essential point is to learn to shoot accurately. I'm certain the man behind the gun will always be necessary and perhaps a determining factor. Remember to be loyal to your officers and equals and others who may be of inferior rank. Play the game. If you have to suffer, then suffer with dignity. Win if you can, but if not, be a good loser. Whatever you do during a war will be remembered by someone in the later following years, especially if you have acquitted yourself badly. In a moment of weakness, it seems to be the nature of some to recall events which should well remain forgotten. The greatest satisfaction one can have is to know all with whom you have served will speak in comradely terms of you and your service, and that you know you are able at any time to face them and secure in the knowledge you have played the game to the best of your ability. This is it's quite a big document. It's, you know, it's a whole year's worth of his life, and yeah. So today is the 10th of November. Tomorrow is Armistice Day, and I just wanted to just make a little video and just acknowledge everybody who has or is serving in a theatre of conflict somewhere in the world. Whichever one it was, your service is greatly appreciated. Kia ora.